If you're like me, you've got contacts in every single possible format. Email, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And it's becoming harder and harder to stay on top of them. To help me make sense of this mess, I use Smarter Contacts, the free app that automatically creates rich profiles for all my contacts right on my smartphone. The thing I love most about this app are the rich profiles it creates. I can see photos, job titles, company details, and updates from social networks all in one place, all in context. This is a free app and available on all mobile platforms. Head to www.untether.tv/smarter to download it today. This is Impulse. Oh, I like the sound of that. I love the sound of that. Don't you, Peggy?
It's awesome.
Well, this is Impulse, episode number 3. We have to thank Gary Schwartz, who was our guest last week for on this episode, on the show, for the name. We put it out there, we got some feedback, and Gary came up with the obvious one, which was Impulse. So Gary Schwartz, another one. We owe Gary another one. Not only is he our very first guest, but he also came up with the name for the show. I love it. This is episode number 3 of Impulse. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv. If you don't know, check it out. It's a resource for you, the aspiring mobile entrepreneur, you, the aspiring mobile business person. Lessons from 350 of your mentors, your compatriots in the mobile industry from around the world on how they've built their business. Go and check it out at Untether.tv. And with me, as always, at least for 3 episodes so far, Peggy Ann Saltz from Mobile Groove. Peggy!
Yes, Rob.
Welcome.
Forever.
Welcome. Yeah, we took we've done some changes. We're growing with this concept of Impulse. Now that we've got the name, we've got a brand new intro that you just saw. Hopefully you like that. We'll be tweaking that. I'm actually going to spell Peggy's name properly this time on the byline. As Peggy said, by episode 5, we'll get this right. So here we are, episode 3.
We'll be in our groove by then, Rob.
No kidding. Our mobile groove, shall we say. Well, this is the show where we're trying to bring you some thought leadership in certain areas. And if you don't remember from episode number 2, what we're going to be doing is bringing you themed months from now on. And obviously January, this month, is focused on the predictions. The predictions that some of the experts in the mobile industry are actually talking about for things that will happen in 2012. Last week, we sat with Gary Schwartz. He talked to us about his predictions. This week, it's Kevin Tofel of GigaOm's, which I'm very excited to have. I love Kevin. I love his predictions. Kevin sits as he's the mobile site editor for GigaOm's, and he's an avid mobilist. He's been doing this for a long time. We're going to get to him in just a few minutes. And next week is Chetan Sharma, and I can't wait for that. I'm looking forward to that.
With an excellent, not just predictions, with an excellent survey as well. So his predictions are based on what we also gave as input. So that's going to be very interesting to go through the high level results there. It's
going to be pretty cool. And then we're gonna move into February brings us an entirely different space, and we're going to be looking at voice, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be. I'm looking forward to that. So we'll spend a whole month of February interviewing experts who are pushing the boundaries for voice. Guys who are in the software space and guys who are thinking about what the impact this is going to be is going to have on us as consumers and business as well. So look forward to that. Oh, love doing this. But as always, first and foremost, what we're going to be talking about are the things that drew our attention this past week. The things that blew up, the things that really are relevant and are in this industry. And we both have our stories. Mine, I think, is very predictable. Mm-hmm. So why don't we start with you, Peggy?
Yeah, I wanted to do, because I knew you were going to go off, as you will in a few moments on RIM, I wanted to look a little bit behind the scenes and look again, because it's always my focus on the people, on the user, on the consumer, on the individual. I think that's very important, and even more so the more the barriers between mobile and everything else sort of meld and disappear. So what caught my eye today was a report that was primarily focused on online. It came via Media Post, which I read every day, which is really good, and Mark Walsh over there doing some great work. And he found a report that's a little bit, I would say it's so obscure because I couldn't find it. I wanted to link to it or even just download it. I couldn't do that. Won't give up the search, though. I will find it by the time I post something over on Mobile Groove as well. So it comes from Insight Strategy Group, and it's looking at our online social media attitudes and behavior. And what I thought was very interesting here is, because we're hearing so much about social media marketing and how we connect and how we carry on the conversation with brands. And it's interesting that nearly 2/3, over 60%, really don't like it. They actually hate it when companies sort of target them with their social networking and just sort of coming at them at that level. But at the same time, they also like very much, again, over 50%, they want to be able to provide feedback to brands via social media. So they want to have a conversation, but they don't want to be stalked or hunted or, that sort of situation. And I think that tells us a lot, because everything we do on mobile, is practically social. If you look at what we do on mobile, the number one app or the number one activity is social. And, that boundary, again, between social marketing, mobile marketing, that's to consider. And I just thought it gave us some insights into how marketers should be dealing with people and how people want to be interacted with by the brands. So my takeaway from it was, they want to have a feedback channel. There should be a conversation, but don't try to get too buddy, too friendly with them. And it also reflects some of the other work I've done, because I've done informal research focus groups. I've also done a series of podcasts with millennials on behalf of Optism, one of my clients on Mobile Groove. And that also came through very much that, they want to have a conversation. They want to have a feedback channel. And what will get people to engage in a conversation, it came through in this report and also through my podcast interviews at the roundtable, is that the incentive is not always what you think it is. Very interestingly, it's often interesting, exclusive information, offers, being part of the in crowd. So in other words, if you're thinking about how to get a following or how to have a conversation and ongoing engagement with people, I think it's built around feedback, around a conversation that respects the individual, so don't stalk them, don't hunt them down via social networking, and offer something that value. And it's interesting that value doesn't always have to be something, a gift, a prize, an item. It can be information. It can be exclusive information. I'm sure for you it would be, if you had the newest information on where Springsteen's going to be, right?
Which is everywhere, starting in March.
Well, that would get you to get involved in a social network for a brand. So
I don't think
I rest my case.
I don't think that this should be surprising to anybody that we want the information, but we don't want to be stalked. And certainly people have gone overboard, especially in the mobile space, about stalking and about pushing content and pushing stuff that's not relevant to us. And all that does is turn people off. And same rules apply. Common sense, common courtesy apply in the mobile space. And I'm glad that that's starting to come out now.
Yeah, and now it's coming through in reports. So guess what? We'll start paying attention to, because before that it was just common sense, right?
Before that it was just humans.
People want stats. Yeah. We got stats to back it up. Now you start your rant.
Okay. Well, this is, I am Canadian, and I have been a longtime supporter of this company called RIM, and because they're Canadian, and it's probably not the right reason to do that, but they're very important to the Canadian economy, the Canadian technology economy, and the area that they're in. RIM, you got to understand, if you're not around Toronto, and I'm not around Toronto, but if you're not around the Waterloo area, they have done an incredible job of creating an amazing spot to start up companies, right, around Waterloo area. It is a hub of innovation. Why? Because of the people that they've been able to attract into RIM as their world headquarters, and the companies that have spun off to support RIM. So they're very important to the economy. Big news this week, obviously, is that the co-CEOs, Jim Balsillie and Mike Lazaridis, have resigned. I did a Mobile Minute about this. I don't want to go into it too deeply, but these guys should be revered as one of the pioneers in the mobile space. Part of the reason why we carry these things around, why SMS has taken off in North America, at least secured, is because of the BlackBerry, because of BBM, because of all these things. And they were really the first guys to get the email on the hip problem solved before we even knew we wanted this. So huge kudos. And Torsten Heinz has taken over as president and CEO. One guy, which I love. One stat that jumped out at me, which was I think emblematic, symptomatic of the problem of what happened inside of RIM is this statistic that said 36% of iPhone 4S buyers defected from other platforms. Now, 50% of that, 50% of those came from BlackBerry, came from the BlackBerry platform. And I think that that's one of the most significant things here. Is it too much? Is it too little, too late? Who knows? Nobody knows Torsten. Nobody knows him very well. He's an operations guy, and he comes from a background. I think he was the CTO at Siemens, and so I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I'm sure Kevin will be talking about this in the predictions, but I'm hopeful. I think this was the biggest news that we saw in mobile, and it was kind of like the ice finally broke, and somebody just said, hey, listen, guys, it's time to go. And they did. So I'm hopeful that this company can turn it around. I think that there's a little bit of optimism. One of the things that concerned everybody that Torsten said during his first live interview was he doesn't see much that needs to be changed. Stock tumbled 8%. And I think that he's just gotta get his groove. He doesn't want to be insulting to anybody who was previous, who ran the company before him. He'll get his legs, and my hope is that Canada's bastion of technology stays inside of Canada. None of this takeover rumors. So that's it. RIM co-CEO's gone. Big news.
Okay, I'll come out of the closet with my phone here.
Yes, well,
I do have an iPhone, but I have that, and that's the phone I use because I communicate. But let's hope you're right.
Well, we'll see. Only time will tell. But at least this is the first good move that we've seen come from RIM. Good decision made. So those were the two things that really stuck out for us this week. I can't wait till next week to see what exactly it is, but you guys will have to wait for there. So now the meat of the program, predictions. Kevin Tofel is, as we said, he basically is the editor for the mobile site at GigaOm, which is one of my favorite sites to visit. And Kevin is one of my favorite guys for coverage in the mobile space, and I'm really looking forward to this. He did a big blog post before the new year around his 16 predictions. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into who he is and what he does over at GigaOm, and his experience, his takeaways from great coverage at CES, and how that has influenced his decisions or influenced his predictions. We'll see how that is. So we're going to go. We're going to break for a second. We'll bring Kevin in, and we'll continue this conversation. So we brought in Kevin. Kevin is the mobile editor for GigaOm. If you've never gone to GigaOm, first of all, just turn this podcast off. Right, just don't even advance, right? If you've never gone to GigaOm.com, actually, I tell you to stop. Stop your car, pull up your mobile device, go to GigaOm.com. Massive amounts of incredible daily, like many times over daily, coverage of what's going on in the technology community. But certainly as well, deep knowledge in the mobile space. Go up there in the top section and pull down the mobile area, and you'll see all of Kevin's stuff. So Kevin, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate you coming on.
It's good to be here, and you plugged it so well that I think I'm going to go check my own site now. It just sounds too good.
Don't go anywhere. Wait a second.
Well, there's just so much information to cover these days because mobile is changing so fast. I mean, I've never seen a market mature so rapidly, quite honestly.
And it's kind of crazy because I remember talking to having an exchange with Gary Vaynerchuk, and we were talking about mobile, and this was maybe 18 months ago, and it was kind of like in passing, but kind of a year after that, his mantra was mobile is the medium, and now it's just a matter of mobile is almost at that point, at least to the leading edge, that it's no longer called mobile, is it? It's just called the thing we do. Right?
It just is. Yeah, it's part of our everyday lives and becoming more a part of more people's lives every day. It's crazy, but it's fun for me because I tend to be an early adopter and a geek. So when I make predictions and such, a lot of those predictions are things I'm already doing, and I'm waiting for everybody else to kind of catch up. Yeah. So it's kind of nice to see.
Well, and you did that. I mean, and we're talking about the prediction show, and this is what we're doing. We're looking at over some of the luminaries in the mobile space that have made some predictions going into 2012. And you came out with your 16 predictions for 2012 in the mobile space, and we'll get to that in a second. But I'm really interested to know, you do this every year. How do you do every year? You're pretty close, aren't you?
You know, I do as well as the weathermen do on most days. I get some of them right. Actually, last year I did okay. I did pretty well. I was very device and platform centric in my focus. So some of the beefs that I had with iOS, for example, I predicted would be fixed, such as the notifications.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's last year was a good year for my predictions, I'll say.
Nice. And this year, I mean, I think that of your 16 predictions, you've already hit one, and we'll dive into that, which is that the rim that we know it will no longer look like the rim that we know it. And you know, as of yesterday, the co-CEOs disappeared. So you know, check, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got one checked off, although I don't think it's done yet because we saw RIM replace two CEOs with a new internal CEO, right. And I've heard a lot of the same strategy, and that's concerning to me and actually leads more credence to my thought. RIM will not exist in the same way, shape, or form by the end of the year. They'll either be bought or they'll turn into a service-based company is my thought.
You know, on that note, is that a Canadian, as I said, and at the beginning of this podcast, and I talked a little bit about RIM, and I would hate to see it leave Canada. It's a very important Canadian technology company. It is the largest Canadian technology company, and really a showcase of the innovation that comes from the country. But I've done a lot of work with RIM in my previous company, and I always thought that these guys, you know, their business is security. Right, as that service layer of security and secure communications, and not only on email but voice, they moved into that space. So I would tend to agree that they have a massive opportunity. The challenge, though, is that 88 or 90% of the revenue comes from hardware sales. So it's a big shift, and you know, that's going to be tough on them this year. But you're sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it. I almost don't want to see it come true for the reasons that you've mentioned, to the Canadian economy, and also because I believe competition is good in this space. I mean, it's what makes innovation thrive. So I don't really want to see it happen, but I'm afraid it will.
All right. So what are some of the other predictions that you're I don't want to say most proud of, but some of the key ones that have been reinforced in the short period.
And also, if I can interject, also it'd be awesome to hear, Kevin, to hear a little bit of the elaboration on your Symbian prediction, because even the wording tells me it's very interesting in and of itself. So it's Symbian, but not Symbian, but it's Symbian.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, Peggy, because I've been on the how do I want to say it? I don't want to say the bad side of Nokia for years, but I probably have been, because about 2 years ago I said, you guys, you're not getting it done with Symbian. You need to just go and jump on Android now. But it was too late for that. And in fact, by the time they made the decision to go to Microsoft, there were so many players into Android at that point. And I actually had an interview with Stephen Elop about 2 months ago in New York City, and I asked him that question. Did you ever consider Android? Was it a matter of timing? And he said, we did consider it, and yes, it was timing. At that point, there were too many people involved, so that's why they ended up, I think, going with Windows Mobile, or Windows Phone, rather. But as far as Symbian itself, well, boy, that's been through a strange transition in terms of who owns it, open sourcing it, the Symbian Foundation, and all the while that Nokia has been talking about Windows Phone, which I think is very smart of them to do, they really haven't abandoned Symbian yet, although now they're not really calling it Symbian. Now they have Bell and Anna, and it's almost like they're trying to debrand it, and maybe it's a backup plan in the future because it's actually had great potential. Again, it was very similar to RIM. Good strategy, not enough time to execute it.
Right. Very interesting. All right. Well, what else? What else is in there that you've got, Kevin?
Well, I think one of the big trends that we're already seeing, we saw it at CES. If either of you were there, you would have seen wearable computing devices and health gadgets. Again, this is something that I've been using for a while. I've been using a running application, for example, on my smartphone for a year and a half to track my daily running activities. But now we've got watches, we've got sensors. They're all cheap, they're inexpensive, they're very capable, they're simple to connect, and they're wearable. I think that's wearable computing, I said, will be the next mobile frontier. It's going to be a mainstream thing, not just you wear what while you run? It's going to be one of those everyday kind of things for people, I think.
You know, I'd reinforce that. There's a great, a good friend of mine, you guys have covered him at GigaOm's end product, the Dexter, right, which is the iPod Nano, which slips into a really nice chassis on your wrist. And I've seen quite a bit of this, and certainly there's a Bluetooth technology for monitoring bracelets, for monitoring heart rates and everything. I think that is an advance. What kind of impact do you think that's going to have this year, though? Like, do you think it's just more people wearing them, or more people relying on them for health issues?
I think we'll have more people wearing them, but it's going to take time for people to understand the value of these devices, what they can get out of the data, and even from a big data standpoint, the companies that are actually gathering all this information, what are they going to do with it, and how will it help people? I should note that you mentioned the Bluetooth profile, the track heart rates and things. There are actually new health profiles in Bluetooth, and Bluetooth 4.0 is a new lower power but longer range technology that I think is going to take root this year in 2012, largely because of these types of devices.
I love that kind of innovation, right? It's the stuff that we never thought we could do. It's Clayton Christensen's disruption theory, or because what happens here is that as this stuff moves into the home and technology enables this, this hub, we've always had that trend. How do you get it from my heartbeat, my monitor, to the doctor in a seamless manner? And the devices, obviously, the smartphone is that conduit, is the enabler. So very cool. All right, what else? What else are you seeing out there?
Well, this is another trend that I kind of jumped on early, and I'm again seeing it more at CES, and maybe you guys in your respective countries have seen this, I don't know. Remotely connecting to smart homes. Back in 2010, are you seeing that, Peggy?
Yeah, hearing more about it, hearing more about it being possible. And you mentioned CES, and that was an interesting data point from there alone from the show, that 50% of the devices on show were connected in some way. So it was, we're seeing it. We're not just talking about convergence, and we're not just talking about connected home. We're actually understanding it. But I think the mobile is the remote control of everything in the middle, right? Okay, same thing.
I would totally. Several of the lights and lamps in my home. I have a garage door opener that I can control. Plus a webcam that I can move around from anywhere in the world and look around the house to see what the cats are doing, for example. I mean, silly stuff, but useful and fun. And now you're starting to see, again, mainstream consumer products come out this way. Just this morning, I'd written up about Belkin's new product line that comes out in March, where they're just Wi-Fi connected outlets, where you plug in a light to this Wi-Fi connected outlet. You use your iOS device or your Android device, and you turn the thing on, turn the thing off. Lights are on, lights are off. It's very simple. It needs to be simple because people aren't geeks like me and early adopters that want to figure out how to make all these things talk to each other.
I love this concept. But, I think that this is one of those things that we've been promised forever. And I remember home builders building, Cat 5 into the walls. And all of a sudden the Wi-Fi came out. And all those companies that were doing the Cat 5 stuff, they're like, oh, another victim.
Yeah, but, at this point, and I made a point in this article this morning, by using Wi-Fi, a ubiquitous standard that everybody knows. I mean, you could ask a 6-year-old what Wi-Fi is, and they probably know what it is, as opposed to saying, are you using Insteon or Zigbee for your home automation? People are like, what? What is that? But they know what Wi-Fi is, and I think that's the key right there, Rob.
Yeah. And it has to be that simple for adoption. People, humans are creatures of habit, and now, I mean, I don't know what the stat is, and maybe you do, but the permeation of Wi-Fi in the home is already there, right? So we've reached that point where now, okay, so now what can I do with this? It's the same thing with the smartphones before, is that when everybody had a smartphone, now everybody has a smartphone in their hand. 50% of North America has a smartphone in their hand. It's that now it's that critical point. Now what else can we do with these devices? And home is obvious. 2 years ago I was thinking, oh boy, I really would just like to just start my freaking VCR, right? Because I'm on my way and I'm going to miss my show, right? We can do these things now. So what's next?
Rob, what's a VCR?
I know.
I'm kidding.
Did I just say that? I
kidding.
meant PVR, right? Boy,
I couldn't let you escape on that one.
It's more like 2 years ago. It's like, I need to start that torrent. How do I start that torrent from remotely? Okay, so what else is what else are you seeing out there? Part of your predictions that you really feel confident for 2012.
This is, I kind of went out on a limb here, but Windows Phone, I think, has a real chance at gaining some adoption, not 50% of the market, but I think it will actually outsell RIM devices by the end of the year. And I'm curious, again, you guys are in different countries than I am. Are you seeing Windows Phone devices anywhere in people's hands?
Well, actually, when you point out in different countries, it's true that I've seen a lot coming through in the way of ComScore research, so consumer research in the European Big Five countries, that we are seeing a shift of some mind share. to Windows Phone. I don't know if we'll see that in sales, but we definitely are seeing an interest. And what I thought was interesting was last year, I don't know if you know the developers, the survey of developers put up by Vision Mobile and BlueVia. That showed also that there was some mind share moving from Symbian. So Symbian was losing, and there was a slight gain again on Windows Phone. So I'm thinking that what we might see is, that interest, that mind share might turn into market share. But a little early to say. How about it at your end? I mean, you went to CES. What did you have?
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, one of the discussion points of the show was Windows Phone and Nokia is back, and it was a lot of positive comments, and people were buzzing about it. And normally they're not at CES buzzing about Microsoft's Windows mobile products and such. So yeah, it was a big to do, I think. How about in Canada, Rob?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, every once in a while I see a Windows phone device, but not a lot. Still predominantly it's BlackBerry, it's iPhone, more and more Android, but it's selection and availability. It doesn't come up to Canada as quickly as it does in the States. We don't have that kind of selection from our carriers. So we're starting to see it. I mean, I run Mobile Monday here in Ottawa, and we had, for example, one of the evangelists for Windows Phone coming in and talking to us, and I think that there's a lot of interest, and but adoption, haven't seen a lot. For every 10 devices, 9 of them aren't. 9.5 of them aren't Windows Phone, right?
Yeah, and it's definitely early, just as Peggy had said, but there's a couple of key points that are standing out. One was the buzz at CES. Two is Nokia is really just starting their global push to get these phones out on the market. Three, I think Windows 8 will actually help this situation for Microsoft, because you're going to have a kind of unified experience now between your desktop, laptop, and your smartphone/tablet with the Metro UI. So that's actually a big selling point that's obviously not here yet. We've also seen 60,000 apps hit the Windows Marketplace. It only took 25 days to move from 50,000 to 60,000. So again, that gets back to Peggy's point about developer mindshare, and we know developers go where the sales are. So, we need to see Microsoft phones sell before developers really jump on board. But I think it's a positive sign so far, and I do believe that Microsoft Windows phones will actually outsell RIM's phones by the end of this year.
Well, and certainly buoyed by Nokia, I think that's probably a valid point. One of the interesting things that we've heard around Windows Phone, especially from the developer community, is that they're desperate for content. At least they were, and they'd be willing to help, contribute to the development of applications for that platform. I think that's a smart thing to do if you want to move that way. And didn't I hear that? Like Angry Birds was gonna jump everything else, and I mean, isn't that the litmus test for the success of a platform? Is if there's Angry Birds on it? It is for my
kids. These days, Angry Birds is on everything. At CES, they showed it off on Samsung smart TVs even. I mean, so it's losing its relevancy in terms of a litmus test for me, because it's just everywhere.
It is everywhere. So we gotta find one other program, one other app, one other game that is that litmus test. Is that you know what? When Instagram is it was ported over to, and I heard the rumors that Instagram would go right over to Windows Phone instead of Android, right?
And that's interesting, because we had Kevin Systrom, the founder of Instagram, on stage at our Mobilize conference in September, and he was hinting at, yes, we're working on Android. There was no mention of Windows Phone at that time, and all of a sudden this rumor popped up, just as you said, and I mean, that would be big. That would be a nice little coup for Microsoft.
Well, here's hoping. I like that. For the first time in a long time, I'm kind of rooting for Microsoft. And as I've just transferred my entire office and everything that I carry into a derivative of an Apple product, right? We're doing this on a Mac desktop and a laptop, and using my iPad and my iPhone. And I'm about going through the process of converting every PC in my house into an Apple device.
Well, it won't hurt you, Rob, because I mean, I'm pretty much Mac-centric here in my home office. But using a Windows Phone device, I mean, these are cloud clients essentially. So unless you're still tied to Outlook on the desktop and you want to sync via a USB cable, which I don't think you are,
not at all,
you should be fine.
All right, well, that's a bold prediction. And was there anything that you saw at CES that kind of or you've seen over the first 3 weeks of the year that you've kind of pulled back and said, you know what, I'm a little bit off?
Well, I actually wanted to interject since we were going on about Windows Phone and we were comparing notes there. I mean, one of the points in your predictions that stood out for me is that, 2012 is going to be the year of Intel in mobile. And I was going to, I want to hear you elaborate on that because that's a broad prediction, but if you're right, it has incredible implications.
Well, it's interesting because just like I have been with Nokia for years, we've pretty much called Intel a mobile loser for years at GigaOm. It's sad, but that's our opinion, and there's been no reason to modify that opinion until CES. For now, 3-4 years, we've heard about the Atom platform was going to transform mobile and so on. And I was a big UMPC fan in 2006, 2007 when we actually had 7-inch Windows tablets running on Intel chips, but the batteries lasted 2 or 3 hours, right? So each year we keep hearing, this is going to be our year, Intel. This is going to be our year. This may be it. And what changed my mind, Peggy, was a hands-on demo with an LG prototype Android tablet that was running on the new Intel Medfield platform, which is the next Atom iteration. They told me, and I can't test the claim yet, but they told me it would have 8-hour battery life of actual usage. It would have 30-day standby time. And in terms of performance, it was just as good as many of the ARM-based tablets that I've used, and even much better in the graphics department. So when you've got some good, graphic horsepower, and you still have that battery life that will last a full day, well, now you've got a product, and you can actually say we're in the mobile market. So they may have changed my mind, to be quite honest.
Wow.
It would be big too. You're right. I mean, they have not been a player. It's been ARM, ARM, ARM all throughout the last several years, and this is big.
Well, it goes to show you that what we're seeing here is, and what mobile does is shifts the playing field. Like one of your predictions is around Motorola and the Google acquisition of Motorola and shedding that ARM. But who would have thought that Google would have bought Motorola? Like we're seeing some big companies succumb to this mobile space by some of these upstarts.
Wasn't that patents though? I mean, that's always the argument.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking, but I don't think it diminishes the point because things that we never thought would happen are happening. There are seismic shifts going on. Look what happened to HP that spent $1.2 billion on Palm only to come away with an open source platform. Yes, Motorola probably purchased for the patents. There's a lot of patent issues going on. It was also one of my predictions about these patent wars aren't going away anytime soon because that's the new way of competing in mobile. But I can't see a hardware manufacturer being owned by a software company that licenses that software because it just puts partners at odds with each other. So I do think it's a patent play. Google will spin Motorola off and let them do their own thing hardware-wise. It's just nobody has ever been successful by owning a licensee.
We just got a few minutes left, so I got to ask, is there anything that you look at now in those 16 and think, oh, what was I thinking? Or are you still confident? And it's only 3 weeks in, I understand.
Yeah, it's only 3 weeks in. I certainly believe that Android's momentum will continue with Android 4.0. I've been using Galaxy Nexus for the past 2 months, so I don't think I'm off base on that. My one really out there prediction, and I talked to Microsoft about this at behind closed doors, although I can discuss it because they didn't really give me an answer. I said we're going to see a smaller Kinect, the Xbox Kinect, in 2012, and my expectation is that such technology fits into a mobile device the following year. That's a little out there, maybe a little too far-fetched for people. Sometimes I overreach with my geekiness, but I would love to see it. And they didn't say no to me. They didn't say yes, but they said, we've got a lot of things with Windows Phone that are on the whiteboard. Yeah. And I'm not going to say, they told me it's not on the whiteboard to talk about gesture-based interaction with a phone or, who knows, holograms, whatever it may be. But they're focused on the main features that people really need and want. So, and that's a smart strategy. But when I read that one, I sort of think, was I smoking crack when I talked about the Kinect? I don't know.
But you know what, Kevin, you were at CES. Did you bump into Whirly, Chaotic Moon, and the Board of Awesomeness? Did you hear about this?
No.
So this was Whirly, who is he calls himself the evil genius of Chaotic Moon. It's a development shop, and they've done like The Daily, Rupert Murdoch's The Daily. These are the guys that did that, and the monster at the end of the book, the Sesame Street book with Grover, that my kids just can't get enough of. But they built a longboard with a Windows tablet and a Kinect attached to the top of the tablet, so it's all on the board itself, motorized, powered, So it's a powered longboard, and it uses you use your hands to start the engine and move forward, and so you're enabling the Kinect. It's all done through the Kinect, a traditional, a standard size Kinect. So, I mean, this is part of a bigger project that they're going to unveil in a couple of weeks, they say. But this is really one of those, this is the first time. So, you're driving on the longboard, you push your hands forward, you move forward, you pull your hands back, you move back. So maybe you're not far off, man. Like when you start to see these guys taking technology like this, shows that there's a demand. Maybe a smaller
maybe.
Right.
It's interesting because the Kinect has become such a versatile product. Microsoft has an SDK for it. It's going to be available for PCs. I've played with one. I connected it to a netbook and made some quick programs to track my movement when I'm working all day. I'm trying to make gestures like wave goodbye. It would sign me off IM. So there's so much you can do, and it all comes back to those connected devices. How do they talk to each other? How do they work together? Which is one of Peggy's points at the beginning of the show. So maybe I'm not off. If I get that one right, man, I'll tell you what, Microsoft should give me a free Kinect-based smartphone, I think.
That's right. You can retire. Okay, yeah. Well, we've certainly spent a lot of time on the predictions. I got to ask, so going forward, and this is the last question, Kevin, we're going to let you go. We finish our shows with something called the Goblet of Rock, where we talk about a company or a technology that we think is going to make a big, that's going to make a play in 2012. Do you have any thoughts on a company or a technology or a piece of software that you think is going to have an impact that we could actually raise? And in honor of the fact that Springsteen is touring...
The boss,
the Goblet of Rock. Do you have any company that you've been watching that you're like, this is going to be cool?
Well, let me give you two short answers to that.
Sure.
And I don't want to get too U.S. centric here, but one of the things I've been saying for the last year is that the Chinese manufacturers ZTE and Huawei will become household names in America within 1 to 2 years. And based on what I saw at CES, I feel very strong about that prediction. So that's one thing. The other thing is, and this gets into my geeky side, back in October I wrote that Siri will become the invisible interface. We've just talked on this show about devices talking together, how do we control them, they're all connected, and really every device, when you think about it, has a different interface. But what is constant between all three of us? Voice communication. So I definitely see Siri, which is technically a beta product, becoming much more used in far more products. Home automation, automobiles, your television, and so on. So I think that is something to look for in 2012.
So definitely the year of the ear, as Mary Meeker put it, right? So
I like that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why we're doing voice next month, by the way, as well.
There you go.
So we're doing voice activated, voice control. Yeah, that fits in with that. I'd like to just plug a little bit about trends. I mean, your trends are good, and we've been listening to them. But also at the other part of GigaOm, the GigaOm Pro, the mobile mythology is a definite must-download document. I mean, they're looking forward beyond 2012 to 2015. So if you really sort of want to have the trends, the predictions for 2012 and then beyond, I can recommend it. And I know that Rob will probably put it up in the post as well, but some great work over there from your I guess your sister company and your activities over there at GigaOm Pro. So if I could, I'd raise my Goblet of Rock to you there. There we go. Disclaimer: I did contribute to it. There you go. But
Gatorade cheer.
That's it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Our
definitely
research
sets the
team,
bar.
our research team at GigaOm Pro really tries to look ahead. Not just 3 months, 6 months out, but far beyond. We want to be ahead of the curve. I mean, I try to be personally, just because again I'm a geek, but that team is really trying to get out the crystal ball and think forward, and I definitely appreciate that.
Very cool, Kevin. Always great. I love connecting with you. Great insight. We'll be monitoring your 16 predictions to see how they go along. Quick plug. Obviously, where can people find you?
Well, obviously I'm at GigaOm.com, but pretty much every kind of social networking service I hide behind the name Kevin C. Tofel, which is my full name. So I'm really easy to find. I'm very engaging in terms of comments and questions. You want technical support on something, if I have the product and can help you, I will. I mean, it's all about conversation with me. It's not about page views and writing articles and not having a relationship with readers. So feel free to ping me anytime.
Awesome. Awesome, Kevin. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Peggy, as
My
always,
pleasure.
this has been
Thank
incredible. For those of you who are watching, listening, wherever you are, we really appreciate the fact that you do this. This is episode number 3. Next week is Chetan Sharma. So come back for that. You will not be disappointed as we round out our triumvirate of mobile mavens, mobile minds around the predictions that are going to be coming in 2012. And until then, we thank you for watching Pulse. Thanks, Kevin. See you later, Peg.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.